Hello children, welcome to today's biology class. Today our topic is oxygen debt. So this may be very new to you, the word. The meaning of the word debt is a type of loan or something which we need to repay back to someone. So this is related to the release of energy without oxygen. So is it the same as anaerobic respiration? And where and under what conditions do we undergo this phenomenon of oxygen debt? Let us learn. So we are going to learn, can energy be released without oxygen even in eukaryotic cells? Take for example athletes. When they are doing any exercise or when they are running very fast, do they take very long breaths? How do they breathe? Just after finishing a running race, why do they feel breathlessness or very difficulty in taking breath? When we do any strenuous or vigorous exercise, why do we feel pain in the muscles? And what is this oxygen debt? We are going to understand all this in a short while. So, just imagine the situation. Before beginning a race or any exercise, do you take a lot of breath in or you breathe more and get ready and then you do the exercise? Or do you breathe more while doing the exercise or while running the race? The answer is no. It is only after completing any race or finishing the exercise that we feel shortness of breath or we start breathing very fast. So how are we able to use energy without breathing very fast? And to do this muscular first, how are we using up the energy and then we breathe or take in the oxygen? How is it possible? Is there any method by which our body makes up for this oxygen demand or lack of oxygen? So we can understand all this phenomenon by a certain experiment in which we have to take the analysis of our blood. You know that the blood contains a lot of substances. You have also learnt in 9th class what are the various components which are present in the blood. So, one particular component which was observed in the blood, which is taken from a person before the exercise and during the exercise and after the exercise, they have analyzed the blood and they observed that the lactic acid levels are showing some difference. The amount of lactic acid is not remaining the same in the blood during and after the exercise. So take a look at this graph. This graph, it shows the effects of vigorous exercise on the concentration of lactic acid in blood. On the x-axis, we are showing the time in minutes from 0 to 60 minutes, that is a time of 1 hour. And on the y-axis, we are showing the concentration of lactic acid taken in milligrams per centimeter cube, ranging from 0 to 100. So take a look at the graph and observe it carefully. There are 4 points which are marked in the graph, A, B, C and D, taken at different time intervals during the exercise. Now let us try to understand and analyze this graph. What was the concentration of lactic acid in the blood to start with? That means just when the exercise was started, what was the level of lactic acid? So observe the point A in the graph. It shows that the levels of lactic acid in the blood was 20 milligrams per centimeter cube. Now, what is the highest concentration of lactic acid during the whole experiment? So is it, which point is it, children? It is the point B, isn't it? So at the point B, the value of the lactic acid concentration is approximately 105 milligrams per centimeter cube. Now let's go deeper into this. If the trend between the points C and D were to continue at the same rate, how long will it take for the original level of lactic acid to be reached? Just understand this question. You can see that between the points C and D, the levels of lactic acid are going down, isn't it? So if this rate of decrease continues, that means see the point C, at the point C, what is the value of the lactic acid? It's around a little more than 70 milligrams per centimeter cube, isn't it? At the point D, it came down to 40. So in the same way, if it goes down continuously, what time will it take to reach the original level of lactic acid? Remember, what was the original level? It was 20 milligram per centimeter cube. So how long would it take to reach that original level? To understand this, if you take a look at the graph which is shown here, we have to extend the line beyond D. That is, from C to D, when you use a scale and plot the graph, you have to continue it even after D. Extend the line after D and let it go as far as possible. Then if you take the 20 milligrams per centigram cube 20 milligrams per centimeter cube value on the y-axis and using a scale, if you see where it points out, there are two arrows which are pointing to that particular region, children, and then you extend it down onto the x-axis, then you will get your time, which according to this graph is approximately 77 minutes. That means in around 77 minutes the original levels of lactic acids is reached. So from this whole analysis of blood, what can we understand? When the person just started to exercise, the value of lactic acid in the blood was 20 milligrams. Then it increased, it went on increasing to a maximum of 105. Then it slowly came down to around 40, and on continuation at the same rate, it took more than 1 hour for the lactic acid levels to come back. So why is the lactic acid increasing? From where did this extra lactic acid come in the blood? So what does this level of high lactic acid indicate about the condition of respiration? Remember children, in the previous class, we have learnt that there are two pathways for respiration. One is the aerobic and the other is the anaerobic pathway. So we have also learnt that in the anaerobic pathway, which is observed mostly in prokaryotic cells, one of the products which comes out after the respiration is lactic acid, and it takes place in bacterial cells, isn't it? But how did this lactic acid come in our blood? All our cells are eukaryotic cells, isn't it? So how did this lactic acid come around? But definitely it means that instead of doing the normal aerobic pathway of respiration, our cells have gone to the anaerobic pathway of respiration, and that is why the lactic acid levels have increased. And once the person has stopped doing exercise and started taking rest, then again the lactic acid levels have come down. So when we walk or run, after some time, or while doing the exercise, after some time we feel the pain in the muscles. This is also due to the accumulation of lactic acid in the muscles. And this lactic acid was produced due to the active muscles which were undergoing anaerobic cellular respiration. And during a 100-meter running race, that means a very short distance running race, where the runner has to run really very fast and in very short time he has to reach the last line, what does the runner do? He can hold the breath while running, But after he stops running, then immediately he will start gasping and he'll feel the breathlessness. So in this case, the muscles are using the energy released during the anaerobic breakdown of glucose, and once he stops running, again the muscles switch over to the normal aerobic way of respiration, which needs oxygen, and that's why continuously very fast they breathe. I hope it is clear, children. So only after the runner stops his running, he obtains the oxygen needed for aerobic respiration and for the slow removal of lactic acid. That means whenever we do any vigorous exercise, we are not actually using up oxygen, but we are creating a space or an oxygen debt for accumulation or taking in oxygen later on when it is available. And the presence of lactic acid in the blood is the main reason of pain in the muscles, but if the body is rested for long, the pain will disappear. So I hope you have understood this lesson, children, and there are a number of short questions which are related to this topic, which I am going to give you in the worksheet which follows. Thank you.